Ahoy hoy, this is Michaela from Team Retro, where we like retro games and we like the devices that bring them to us. So what you are looking at right here are two models of Evercade Handheld. The one on the bottom is the original Evercade Handheld, and the one on the top is the Evercade EXP, which was released over the last few months. And I did a video reviewing that device, which had it bring a lot to the table. But there's also something to be said about the original because it is capable of a few tricks that the newer model does not yet support. However, the newer model has a brighter IPS screen while the original model has an older TN screen that is a little bit more washed out. And so many people in the community like to take their original model Evercade and do an IPS screen swap. So that's what we're going to do in this video today. And there's a lot to talk about with the Evercade systems, so this is going to be part one of a multi-video series. So let's dive in and let's get to work. Alright, so let's start off by doing a screen comparison before we do the screen swap. Here is the IPS screen of the Evercade EXP, and you could tell it's an IPS screen because things seem a little bit brighter and more vibrant, but also if you tilt the systems side by side, you'll notice that the picture does not wash out. Now let's take a look at the original first gen Evercade, and let's tilt that side by side, and you can see that the TN panel is actually starting to get washed out, so you really have to view this screen head on. You can't look at it in any specific angle if you want to get a clear picture. And here's another angle on how the two screens look side by side, and you can see the Evercade EXP's IPS panel looks a little bit more vibrant and you can see it clearly. However, you can't see it as clearly with the original model. Now we need to start by removing the adhesive screen protector that's on the front of this unit, and we're going to need some isopropyl alcohol. Now the purpose of this is to loosen the adhesive so that we can take this front cover off and we can actually get to the internals of the device. And ideally what you want to do is get just enough in between the seams of the unit so that way you can use a suction cup and just pry the screen protector off. And if you are successful with this method, it will be your best case scenario because you won't do any damage to the paint or the device itself, and it will look like you never took it off when you're done. However, this was not the case with me. I could not get the suction cup to appropriately lift up the front cover, try as I might, and I couldn't get enough alcohol in between the seams to start to loosen up that adhesive. So I went on the EverSD Discord channel and I spoke to one of the mods / devs of the EverSD called eSmith13, and after some troubleshooting I decided to try the pry and pray method, which involved taking a metal sponger and poking it in between the seam of the device and of the Evercade cover itself. And I don't recommend doing this unless you really can't get this off, because as you can see, I did manage to do some damage at the bottom of the device, which is unfortunately not going to go away. And since I've done this mod, I've lurked on that Discord channel here and there, and something else that was recommended is potentially using a hair dryer to loosen up the adhesive alongside the isopropyl alcohol. Now you could see once I was able to get in between the seams, I was able to get this loose, and I was able to pour some alcohol in between the screen cover and the device itself and slowly pry this cover off. And then once you do this, you are able to get to the internals of the device and you can start working on the screen mod. However, try to learn from my mistakes and not do unintentional damage to your unit while you are doing this. And if you do need further help, the members of the EverSD community are definitely available to help you out. Another thing to note, that the isopropyl alcohol does not ruin the adhesive of the front protector, so you can use it when reassembling this unit later. And here's what the back of this cover looks like, and you can see the adhesive here. Now, I would not recommend that you peel that adhesive off because you are going to be able to use it again. However, if some of it comes off on its own, it's not going to be the end of the world. Alright, now we've been through the hardest part and we can go ahead and use a Phillips screwdriver and we can remove the front plate. Once the screws are out, let's carefully open up the unit. You can use a guitar pick for this step, or if it's loose enough, you can also pry with your hands. Just when opening up any unit, you want to be careful not to break the clips. Be careful when opening up the unit because you do have some connector cables here connecting the headphone jack and the rubber membrane for the D-pad. Let's just unscrew those and disconnect them from the back of the unit. That's probably the easiest way to go here. You can also unclip them from the daughter boards, but I found the unscrew method to be easier. Now let's go ahead and remove the 6 screws from the motherboard and daughter boards, and these are going to allow us to open up the unit further and access the screen connection. Now let's carefully remove the internals from the case. Just keep in mind there is going to be a ribbon cable connecting the screen to the motherboard, so we want to be cognizant of that. You also have some very thin speaker wires that are connected to the front of the motherboard, so you don't want to pry this front part completely off. You just want to lift it up so that way you can remove the front screen and replace it with the new one. Let's go ahead and disconnect the ribbon cable holding the screen in place and attaching it to the motherboard. And now let's go ahead and put the new IPS screen in. This is a PSP 1000 screen that was purchased on AliExpress, and I'll leave a link in the video description because this is one of the only types of screens that will actually work with this model Evercade. And so you just want to make sure that you are purchasing the correct one. And all we need to do is pop this new ribbon cable in place and snap it shut, and we can begin to start assembling the unit. So let's start by replacing the mother and daughter boards and screwing those back into place. Before proceeding any further, turn the unit around once everything is screwed in here and just test the D-pad and the buttons and just make sure the screen turns on and everything clicks and looks good. And it seems in this case everything does look like it's connected properly and functions like it should. So with that, let's turn the unit off and let's continue our assembly. The next step is to re-screw the headphone connector and the D-pad membrane to the back of the unit. Make sure your L and R buttons are in place and click correctly. And then also you want to make sure that your power button gets put back in place if it happens to fall out like it did with me. Now let's snap the front cover back on and let's test the unit just to make sure everything's working the way it should before we restore that adhesive. Give the unit and the screen a good wipe down just to get rid of any fingerprints and any lingering alcohol that may be still on the unit. You could see that isopropyl alcohol is not something that you want to play around with. It's pretty strong stuff. You could see that it actually left a yellow stain on my mouse pad here, and that stain is now prominent in a lot of my videos that I've put out over the last couple of weeks. Just doing a quick button and D-pad test here, and yeah, everything seems to be working just fine. This unit has passed all the tests, so let's go ahead and close her up. Let's also give a quick wipe down to the front and back of the actual screen protector here. We don't want to touch any of the adhesive because we don't want anything to stick to it, but we also don't want any schmutz on the inside of the screen that may have gotten there while we were doing this surgery. You also want to make sure that the front cover has had a chance to dry because the adhesive will become sticky again at that point. And so we'll end this video with another screen comparison showing you what the IPS screen looks like compared to the one in the Evercade EXP. And you can see already it is a massive improvement over what I showed you at the beginning of the video. So if we go ahead and tilt the unit, you'll notice that now it no longer looks washed out and the colors are very bright and vibrant. So now that begs the question, why would you want to take the time to mod an original Evercade? Why don't you just buy an Evercade EXP and have that already done for you? Well, the Evercade EXP is not compatible yet with the EverSD cartridge to SD adapter that will allow you to run some emulators and ROMs on an Evercade, in addition to running the cartridges that are available for this unit. So in our next video, we're going to take a look at the EverSD and how to set it up and get it working with the Evercade Handheld and the Evercade Versus. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you an Evercade fan? Have you done this screen mod? And if you haven't, is this something that you might consider for your existing Evercade unit? And feel free to continue the conversation in the Steam Machine and the Retro Handhelds Discord. Link will be in the video description, and that's where I typically hang out in between releasing these videos. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and if this video was helpful to you in any way, please be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, bye for now, and don't stop believing.